Okay, so let me tell you a story. It's from 1983, and it's about a woman who went on a local talk show and predicted a terrible disaster. And you know what? Her prediction came true. But the real mystery here isn't that she was right. It's that, according to the official timeline, it should have been completely impossible. So, this is how it all started, with this one sentence, handwritten on a piece of yellow paper that just showed up at a tiny TV station in Dayton, Ohio. It was signed Claire Fields. No address, nothing, just a phone number. And this simple little note, it was about to kickstart one of the most baffling and creepy local legends in television history. All right, so picture this. It's 1983, and we're at the studio of the Raymond Nash Hour. Now, this was your typical local, low-budget talk show. They'd usually cover light human interest stuff, bake-offs, local authors, that kind of thing. Nothing too serious, well, until that particular day. So, as fate would have it, the show had a guest cancel at the very last minute. The producers are scrambling to fill the airtime, right? And one of them, digging through a pile of mail, finds that strange letter from Clara Fields. Out of pure curiosity, and let's be real, probably a little desperation, they decided to call the number. And you know what? Clara answered on the very first ring. When Clara Fields actually arrived at the studio, she wasn't at all what they were expecting. She wasn't some eccentric psychic type, all dramatic and flashy. No, she was just quiet, polite. She was holding an old leather purse. But the crew, they all noticed something else about her. She looked deeply, profoundly exhausted, like she hadn't slept in a week. So she gets on camera, and the host, Raymond Nash, he asks her to explain this claim that she dreams of the future. Clara, very calmly, describes 3 other dreams she'd had that had already come true. But then, when she mentioned the details of a really tragic house fire on Oak Street, a producer standing off camera just froze. He knew the details of that fire, and he knew for a fact that Clara lived nowhere near that street. Raymond then asks her, okay, so what's the dream that hasn't happened yet? And this, right here, is when the whole mood in that studio just changed. Clara started describing this horrifying vision with this unnerving clarity, giving all these details about the sights and sounds of a total catastrophe. And look, these weren't some vague psychic claims like, I see darkness in the future. No way. She gave them specific, testable details. A metal bridge, a collapse during traffic, a location, and a timeline. Some people in the studio audience kind of laughed uneasily, but Clara, she didn't even seem to notice. And then she added this little detail, just a strange, specific whisper that seemed to come from absolutely nowhere. How in the world could she possibly know something like that? So when her interview was over, the show just moved on to the next segment. Clara shook the producer's hand, quietly said those final words, and just walked right out of the studio. She left the host and the entire crew with this tape of a really, really weird interview and this feeling that was a mix of, professional skepticism and just genuine, chilling unease. For 5 days, that tape just sat on a shelf in the studio, completely unaired. And then the story went from being a bizarre little TV segment to an unforgettable local tragedy. It happened, exactly as she had foreseen. Just outside Dayton, during rush hour, the Westfield Bridge on Highway 67 just collapsed. Witnesses said it was like the whole thing just folded in half, sending cars plunging into the dark river below. 13 people died. Back at the TV station, as the first news reports started coming in, a stunned silence just fell over the entire crew. Clara Fields had been right about everything. So now the producers had this incredible dilemma. Think about it. They were sitting on the most unbelievable piece of television you could possibly imagine. A documented, accurate prediction of a major disaster. But here's the problem. Her episode was scheduled to air 2 days after the collapse had already happened. The team, of course, immediately tried to get in touch with Clara to have her back on the show. But her phone number? It was already disconnected. So a production assistant reached out to the Dayton Police Department for help finding her, and that is when this story goes from being just a mystery to something completely unsolvable. The police checked their records, and yeah, they knew a Clara Fields, age 47. But there was no way she could have been on their show. Why? Because she had been killed just days earlier in a car accident, skidding off a rain-slicked road Okay, this right here is the heart of the entire thing. Just look at this timeline. October 14th, she tapes the interview. 4 days later, on October 18th, Clara Fields dies. The very next day, her prediction about the bridge comes true. She was already dead when the event she predicted actually happened. How is that possible? So, after this absolutely shocking discovery, the station decided this was all way too strange and morbid to ever air. They locked the tape away. But of course, the story doesn't end there, because one person just couldn't let it go. A station engineer who said he was haunted by the look on Clara's face secretly made a copy of the unedited master tape. He had to see the raw footage for himself, without any of the cuts or edits they'd made for the broadcast. He noticed this really brief glitch in the recording, just a little flicker that they had edited out of the final version. But on that raw, unedited tape, right after that flicker, he saw something that no one else was ever supposed to see. In that one split second, Clara Fields wasn't looking at the host anymore. She looked directly into the camera lens, right at the viewer, and delivered this final, haunting line. It's a single sentence that completely reframes the entire story. The station officially buried the episode. The original tape was put in a vault, marked with this simple warning. The story of Clara Fields just became this ghost story, a legend whispered in the halls of that TV station. And it leaves you with a question that has no logical answer at all. If what she saw weren't dreams, but memories, whose memories were they?